This film I am about to describe is one I implore you to watch, for there are chapters of history that we, the generations that follow, are duty-bound to remember. It is 1945 in China's northeast. The region has been thoroughly occupied by the Japanese Imperial Army. To secure final victory in the war, Unit 731 has been placed under a new commander. To establish his authority, this man, Dr. Shiro Ishii, orders a soldier to urinate publicly into a container. Without flinching, he pours the liquid through a filter of his own invention and, before the stunned audience, drinks the still warm result. In their banquet halls, they raise glasses in celebration, their laughter echoing through the rooms. The warmth they feel, however, is kindled by the dismembered limbs and shattered lives of our countrymen. A train arrives. Civilians are forced off, herded by Japanese soldiers towards a prison. An officer, irritated by the cry of an infant, stops the mother. He wrenches the swaddled child from her arms and stares coldly at the woman's desperate pleas. The mother begs, but her words are useless. The baby is thrown onto the frozen snow. As the mother lunges forward to save her child, a soldier's boot stamps down, crushing her right hand with a sickening crunch. The other prisoners can only watch, their hatred burning silently. The agonizing cries of mother and child pierce the air. The Japanese response is to bury the infant under a mound of snow. Within 7 seconds, the infant's cries stop. The officer waves a hand dismissively. The soldier sees the now hysterical mother and, amidst her piercing wails, shove her into a cell. During an inspection led by Ishii, a journalist bursts from a dissection room. Inside, they are meticulously recording the process of a live human dissection. "It seems he still needs time to get used to it," a soldier remarks coldly. Another man has been subjected to 4 separate bacterial tests with no visible effect. To determine why, the Japanese perform a vivisection on him while he is still conscious. Such dissections are a daily occurrence within Unit 731. The Maruta must not only be alive, an instructor explains to new recruits, but also in perfect health. The opportunity to experiment on living subjects is a rare privilege. Our countrymen were called Maruta by the Japanese soldiers, a word meaning logs. In their eyes, we were not human beings, we were lumber to be burned, raw materials for the furnace of their experiments. "What is this?" an officer asks a recruit, pointing at a prisoner. The nervous recruit answers, "It is Maruta." They systematically train young cadets to shed their humanity, their eyes gradually hardening with a terrifying fanaticism. We see a 9-foot-tall, powerfully built man from the north, beaten to death and discarded in a pond. The mother who lost her child has retreated into a catatonic state, her eyes vacant. She sits silently, cradling a pillow as if it were her lost baby. In the -40°C cold, Japanese soldiers fetch water from a frozen well. They scoop a ladleful and approach the woman. They tear the pillow from her arms, her last shred of solace, and throw it onto the ice. Then they pour the freezing water over her arm. The woman thrashes and screams, a raw sound of pure agony. When a soldier forces her to step on the pillow, she reaches a new peak of torment. The scene is so brutal that even some of the Japanese soldiers look away uncomfortably. Time passes. Ice crystals form in her hair, but the hot tears streaming down her face refuse to freeze. The water in the ladle soon turns to ice. The soldiers clear it and fetch another portion of freezing water. The woman is in excruciating pain, but her arm is slowly losing all sensation. The process is repeated every half hour. Her expressions shift from pain to a terrifying numbness. Deeming the time right, a soldier steps forward to inspect the limb. He taps the arm with a metal tool, and the woman screams in pain. Seeing she is not fully numb, they continue pouring water. Finally, when the metal tool taps her arm and produces a clear, ringing sound, like striking porcelain, they know the experiment is ready. With black-gloved hands, they force her arms into a basin of warm water. A steam valve is opened, and the temperature rapidly increases. This is the frostbite experiment, 10 hours of exposure at -35°C. They order the woman to hold out her hands, which are now grotesquely deformed. Using tweezers, a soldier easily peels away the frozen, dead flesh from her arm. Next, the cadets are shown a flash freezing experiment. A man's hands are subjected to extreme cold, visible wisps of vapor rising from them. He is pinned to a table, awaiting his fate. What you see now is the minus 196 degrees Celsius flash freeze experiment, the instructor states. The frozen hands are so brittle that they shatter with a light tap from a small hammer, pieces skittering across the floor with a crisp, horrifying sound. Bodies that have outlived their experimental value are sent down a red-painted corridor, a death pathway that leads directly to the crematorium furnaces. To cultivate more potent strains of plague, the Japanese draw blood from those who have died from it and inject it into healthy prisoners. Through repeated cycles, the plague's lethality is dramatically enhanced. By 1945, Japan is losing on the Pacific Front and suffering heavy losses in China. Morale is low and defeat seems inevitable. The Japanese High Command pins its last hopes on Unit 731. The deployment of their biological weapons, they believe, will reverse their fortunes completely. We have additionally produced 3 million plague-infected rats and 300 kilos of fleas, a commander boasts to his superiors. The estimated number of infected fleas has reached 1 billion. If all 1 billion infected fleas are deployed, it is not difficult to imagine that the entire war situation will be fundamentally reversed and our army will achieve final victory. The fate of the Japanese Empire will be fundamentally changed by our biological weapons.
Their chemical weapons are ready, but a critical problem remains. The heat from an artillery shell's launch would kill the fleas inside, rendering the weapon useless. Ishii, after some thought, finds a solution. Based on the principle of a ceramic mine, they develop a porcelain bomb that could be dropped from aircraft instead of fired. But before it can be deployed, human testing is required. Over 20 people are tied to crosses in an open square. At the officer's command, ceramic bombs are dropped, releasing a cloud of infected fleas. The Japanese stand safely upwind, unconcerned about infection. The people in the square, however, endure unimaginable suffering, not only from their bonds, but from the swarms of fleas feasting on them. The square fills with the sounds of agony and despair. In another test, a man is stripped naked and locked inside a pressurized chamber. Through a one-way mirror, the Japanese observe. A button is pressed, and the air is violently sucked out. As the pressure plummets, the man experiences unbearable pain. His eardrums feel like they will burst, and his body swells grotesquely. Amid his piercing screams, the Japanese increase the suction. A man who weighed 90 pounds is distended to look like he weighs 200. His internal organs are violently extracted. The Japanese officers calmly take notes. A pigeon, along with a Russian mother and her 11-year-old daughter, are tied to a cart. Despite the mother's desperate pleas, the Japanese show no mercy. With detached expressions, they push the cart into a gas chamber. The mother's despair deepens when she sees that the visitors observing the experiment are Japanese school children, no older than her own daughter. As the door seals, Dr. Ishii appears. He gives a signal, and a valve is opened. White poison gas floods the chamber. The Japanese start their stopwatches. The mother looks on in terror, clutching her daughter. As the gas reaches them, she immediately finds it impossible to breathe. Ishii watches with fascination, seemingly savoring their torment. The girl holds her breath as long as she can, but eventually, she must gasp for air. The Japanese stop the timer. Soon, the struggles of the mother and daughter cease. A young mute boy is lured into a laboratory with false kindness. A group of doctors enters, preparing for surgery. The curious boy, unaware of his fate, follows their gestures and removes his shirt. He is guided onto an operating table. A chloroform-soaked towel is pressed over his face, and he soon falls into a deep sleep. After his chest is sterilized, it is sliced open. The doctors, like a pack of wolves, eagerly harvest his organs. "Are you all satisfied now?" one asks. "The one who wanted a heart, here it is. The one who wanted a liver, here it is. The one who wanted a brain, you have it." The living organs of a healthy developing adolescent are very difficult to obtain elsewhere. An older worker, desensitized, hacks at the boy's remains with an axe, as if splitting firewood, before disposing them in the furnace. A white cat is thrown into a cage of rats. The rats, enhanced by bacterial experiments, are abnormally aggressive. In less than a minute, the cat is dead. The Japanese are stunned by the result. If a small rat can eat a cat, then our plague fleas can defeat airplanes and cannons. This is the fundamental theory of our Unit 731, and it is my philosophy. For victory, we must cultivate these strong specimens and protect them. A riot breaks out in the prison, an attempt to get a message out to the world. The prisoners are rounded up and tied to crosses for a new experiment. But the Japanese did not anticipate that some would break free of their wire bonds. They help each other escape. A desperate chase ensues across the land. The Japanese hunt them down from trucks, treating it as sport. Despite their desperate speed, the prisoners are no match for bullets. An urgent command arrives. The Soviet Union has declared war. Unit 731 must evacuate immediately. Before they leave, they have much to do. All the Maruta must be executed, and all experimental data must be collected and destroyed. Ishii even suggests that all personnel and their families should commit suicide to ensure the secrets of their atrocities on Chinese soil are buried forever. Outwardly calm, Ishii is inwardly panicked. As an officer burns documents, Ishii shoots him in the back. The Japanese release poison gas into the prison blocks, killing all remaining prisoners. They use machine guns to destroy all remaining lab specimens. Disregarding the danger, they detonate their stockpile of plague bombs on site. They set a massive fire to destroy all evidence. But the spine of our nation could not be burned with their files. They dynamite the entire complex, razing it to the ground. The mass graves they had dug earlier became giant pits for burning corpses. The explosions ignite everything in the labs. Plague-infested rats, now also on fire, scatter across the plains. This one act would lead to repeated outbreaks of plague in the Harbin region for 30 years after the founding of New China. The Japanese forces withdrew to the train station, conducting an orderly retreat. But their departure could not erase everything. Why can this hatred never be forgiven? During the 14 years of the War of Aggression, the crimes committed by the Japanese army on Chinese soil are too numerous to be listed. There is history that cannot be found in textbooks. The 10,000 people pits of Datong in Shanxi, the 10,000 people pits of Huanan, the 10,000 people pits of Hogan, of Fuxing, of Liaoyan. The Japanese plundered tens of millions of tons of coal from China, along with incalculable amounts of timber and mineral resources. During the years of the Japanese invasion, China suffered over 35 million casualties. On average, 1 out of every 12 Chinese was killed by the Japanese. On average, every Japanese soldier has the blood of 30 of our compatriots on his hands. The Nanjing Massacre, the Comfort Women, the contest to kill 100 people using a sword, Unit 731. Every one of these terms represents an indelible, profound pain for the Chinese nation. Never forget the national humiliation. Never cease to strive for strength.